Hello again from Grapevine, Texas. We're here at the Super Conference doing our podcasts. And to my left, your right, we have Richard Sharman, who is our team leader for the collision group. And then I myself am Keith Manich. I am responsible for the collision division. I'm the vice president responsible for it. And to my right, our special guest star is Jeff Zalis, and he is from Specialized Autocraft. Jeff's been working with us for a number of years now, and within the 20 group, he's one of those guys that is I'll call it the mover and the shaker, trying to get things done so that it benefits the shop, but not only that, it benefits others that he's touching within the peer group. And I think that's really special. And so what we wanted to do was have him share with you as a group today some of the things that he's doing, and they're really innovative ways of looking at things, which are really helping the collision shops. And of course, for Richard and I, that's a big deal that we get the collision shops moving in a really good direction for all the changes that are coming up. So I'm going to have Jeff kind of, introduce himself and tell us about some of the things that he's doing. And then Richard and I will jump in and ask questions in a little bit deeper detail. So Jeff, introduce yourself, please.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Keith, for having me today. And once again, I'm Jeff Zalis from Specialized Autocraft in Chatham, New Jersey. A small independent collision repair facility, staying on the leading edge as we're, intended to do so via ATI and the market, so forth. But yes, basically second generation business, been going on 51 years there for collision only. And that being said, ATI has really just brought into the table worlds of things that have just opened my eyes. And that being said, it's just really from anything from the processes, procedures, and so forth, but really the transparency with the customer. Both, Rich and I work on that every week, bringing all kinds of things between documents that keep our process not only transparent, but keep the customer informed from both sides of it, not only just what we present to the table, what their vehicle needs, but also what they need to do with the insurance company. So that being said, yes, we obviously do collision repair, but we are now for sure involved for the past 2.5 years or so with ADAS fully in-house. Many people are jumping on board with that. So that's a whole nother thing we can get into in a few minutes, but nonetheless, just staying current with the market, current with the industry. And this is a perfect place to be for that and to just set us for the next step in the future for what we have, not only as a company, but for the industry. And most of my 20 group is here now. We're very similarly aligned. So it's great that we all get to experience this together, not only, but bounce our ideas off each other. And I know obviously we're a little bit smaller on the collision end versus mechanical, but we do get some value out of with the mechanical end, even speaking to them in private, what they can bring to the table. And we do a lot for them too.
You have the benefit of having a brother that's in the mechanical side too, though, right?
I do. He is an ATI 13, I think it's 14-year member now. Yeah. So what's really neat about that is I recall, and it was brought up a few times in the different roundtables and so forth. I recall sitting in when ATI came to town. It was at, I want to say like a Holiday Inn, but this was like 14, 15 years ago. And I remember going with him for the
boot camp,
which was like, a 3-4 hour window. And I was blown away then. I worked as a tech, mechanical end and so forth for my family on that end. And then I went to the collision side. And that being said, it was about 3-4 years ago now, we hopped on board on the collision side, and we're really, it's just springboarding us into every stage of development of the company and you name it. But yes.
It surprises me that you say that you were blown away then, because I consider myself, especially with Jeff here, a coach whisperer. Jeff is a member that needs awakening. He has the information, but he methodically works through them, understands them conceptually all the way through to implementation before he moves on them. So I have to stay on him. But when he moves, he gets it. And that's what one of the biggest appeals with working with you, Jeff, is when you get it, you go.
Tell me, obviously there's a relationship here, but tell me what the things are that you're working on that are just the most impactful for you.
Well, the one that we're working on right now that is going to be the most impactful is adjusting and changing his tax and benefit load. Jeff, and I'll let you tell the story a little better than I, but I want to set the platform for you. Jeff took over a business that had a grandfathered in tax and benefit load that is super, super high. I'll let you take and explain that.
That's typical for New Jersey, though. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And with the tax and benefit load, it really is parlaying to what we're doing with some major budgeting right now, because it's restricting me from pushing forward. But with what Richard's saying, yes, I inherited a very heavy tax and benefit load. It came with, we offer, full health insurance, dental, a number of other in-house benefits to the employees, but it really has come down to some heavy bonuses, and it's hard to talk about because it's become for sure 100% an expected bonus, an end of the year bonus. But we're developing a strategy here to go ahead and give an opportunity to bonus the technicians in another manner, quarterly, based off of production and so forth. So it's really going to change the game. But what I've really diagnosed and realized was inherited T&B load that I carry is more stringent on the employees that transferred over with the company. So my new hires have come to the table and I'm able to actually manage that a lot better. But the old employees from the previous, and I worked with them on the floor, yes, it's expected what they're getting, but at the same time, that's the biggest challenge right now is transferring up to the new way of what we're operating for it. It's something that we're majorly working on. The budget parlays with that, and that's something else we're really dialing in right now.
Jeff, right now, and it's not the technician's fault, but what Jeff is working right now is entitlement. The technicians feel they're entitled to these things that were there. And they're not. It needs to be restructured, to Jeff's point, based upon productivity and success within those particular areas that are matched up with what the goals and objective of the business are. And that's one of the things that Jeff and I are working on.
It's really neat. And I know it's something later on we're going to get to. But with that being said, this super conference really is develop a true plan, and not just, okay, it's up in here or it's on paper, but making sure the team knows that plan. And that being said, bringing that to the table, the one-to-ones with the technicians, and not just, hey, how's your day going and so forth, but really divulging what I pulled out of this super conference of where do you want to go? You see my plan, you're hearing my plan, you now truly know my plan, but where are you in the plan and what do you have as a plan yourself, as an individual, a technician, so forth? Because it's not there right this second, but I'm really drawing that, and I can't wait to bring that back to everybody. So it's really going to help.
So with that being said, you're in a state that's, I won't say, it's harder to do business in that state, especially with the third party influence. What are some of the things that you're doing to kind of counter with that third party influence? What are you doing to help you get through the structure that they've got in place?
We had to create our own structure. And that goes along with the transparency I was expressing with the customer. We have a customer drop their car off prior to approval of an appointment. We have them sign a authorization to disassemble. We're grabbing keys. We're really reducing our upfront estimating. So we're trying to grab the keys, then do we submit our vehicle arrival doc at that point to both the customer and the insurance company, so we can cover ourselves for care, custody, and protection of the vehicle. That really sets a tone, because if in the event that it determines the vehicle is a total loss and or there's a time delay on behalf of the carrier, it really, really allows us to control the situation where, and other times that we learned from, we got taken advantage of. And we're rightfully so. We are in the care and the custody and protection of the vehicle as the second it comes on the property and the second it leaves. But in doing so, just right there, it has really helped the total loss situation. We are very, very much methodical in the sense of whether the car is a tow-in and we get the authorization to disassemble, or we're getting the keys, we are getting to the vehicle quickly. We're not making the delay our delay. So we're really getting to the car as quickly as we can with the technicians, getting them authorized, disassembled, and so forth. But we're not becoming the area which the carrier then can put something back to us and say, hey, this was your delay, you had too much workload, this, that, whichever. But that helps with the third party situation. And then once they're repair planned, we do get another authorization for a continued repair. And that authorization, is our contract with the customer. They're presented everything as for what the repair is. And it really binds the repair in a better way. And as Rich knows, he likes us to get one type of rebuttal from the carrier, but we really push to say, that's our ticket is our ticket. We've diagnosed everything and we have all the information to do so to proceed to repair your vehicle properly. And in the end, yes, I do copay. I know it's a sensitive topic for some people, but we do copay.
How have the customers received that?
To put a percentage on it is very challenging. To say, it's to say it's perfect every time. That's not true. It's not. There are times, and Rich has really had to calm me down on times where it's, you are an independent business. You can make a concession. So that being said, when I say I want to get paid for every penny, every dollar, every 0.2, this, that, whichever, he will walk me off the ledge and say, look, you're independent. You can make that one-time concession. Don't they do it for you? So we do that when needed. So it isn't perfect, but the customer response, with them being so informed from the start and everything's transparent, it's pretty smooth. Of course, there's some bumps here and there.
Sure.
And what that does, Keith, as well, Jeff knows, is that positions the business to be the first step in setting a good faith concession to move through that process, which you never see or rarely see from the carrier.
And the customer response, when it's towards the negative side, it really is contingent upon what they don't know. They really don't know the policy if they're the claimant, which is kind of expected, and or if it is their insurance. I mean, most people don't read their own policy. So that being said, they really are almost hit in the face, and then it's an education process. We try to make it as least painful. One of the seminars, the speakers was make your business, I forget what he said.
Friendly. I know what you're talking about. Make your business easy to do business with.
Easy to do business with. And then the collision end, as we all know how challenging that is when we're faced with the carrier saying, no, we don't pay for that. When you can bounce it off one of the other members here, they probably get paid for it across the country in the same way or different way, but that's kind of when it hits them in the face, it's a challenge.
You said something before that I think is important to share, but tell us about total losses.
So total losses. Prior to ATI, prior to those of you who are using the total loss worksheet, we're accustomed to, maybe some storage, maybe a slight total loss fee. I was one DRP and now I'm fully independent. So that's not an issue with total losses. But prior to, it was interesting. We really were taking it on the chin saying, it's a small dollar figure per day, maybe a small service fee. But now, total loss worksheet, for anyone who's not using it, it is a very, very excellent tool that you can really see a major difference in what you're doing. And as many people know and seen across the industry, I would say shops are about 40%, would you say, for total losses of their business, utilizing that total loss sheet. I've presented it in different ways because of carrier's expectation. and what they were driving as the industry in the beginning. But I've really changed where it was exactly what was written on the sheet and providing that to them in a itemized way, like severely itemized way. And I've actually pulled back and did a little bit more generically. I use a sheet, I find my figures where we need to do, and then we kind of block itemize it in the estimate.
Okay.
And in doing so, it creates an ability for them to say, if they're trying to get a certain hour rate per area, it's $1 rate. And we've done it that way versus a severely itemized total loss sheet. And it's worked for us, at least. I know others that are doing it.
Without putting you on the spot, could you quantify prior to the worksheet, what was your average total loss revenue versus per RO versus what you're currently seeing now?
I mean, we were for sure under 1,000 on an average. And by all means, I'd say at least 4,000, the total loss.
That's significant.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, the idea behind that worksheet initially was if I had, and at the time, and this is going back 5 years ago, if we had a $3,500 ARO, which is about what it was back then, that you could still make off of that 3,500 in a total loss, I could still make the same net profit. And that was the idea behind it. And it's grown. And I love hearing that people are successful with it, but it was another tool that we could use to make sure that, you were being properly reimbursed for the time. And listen, this is something we're going to be talking about. And it's especially interesting coming from New Jersey. But one of the things that we're going to be hitting hard this year is, the insurance companies have pushed about 80% of their claim responsibility over the shop. They're still doing their internal, decision-making about the claim, but the things that an adjuster used to do, they're not doing anywhere near any of the things that they used to do. So I remember back, and this is going back probably 15 years ago, maybe a little bit more, it used to be about $320 to send an adjuster out, car, mileage, everything that went with that, and the training, and then, you did it at a unit cost, but about $320 a car is what it would cost for them to send somebody to your shop. Where's that money going? They don't have brick and mortar anymore. They don't have the staff. So where's that money going? And they're not paying us.
Have you seen what the bonuses were last year for the majority?
I know.
Okay, all right. So
That, that makes you want to throw up.
Yeah.
But I mean, you understand what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
You used to have that person. That person doesn't exist anymore. Where did that comp go? And the comp, well, I know where it's going. It's floating up, but give the shops a piece of that.
No.
And that's what we hear.
Listen, from an insurance perspective, and I was with an insurance company, a large publicly traded insurance company for over 22 years. But listen, if I can parlay work out to the industry without having to incur those costs, guess where it's going to go?
It's a hard thing too. I mean, we all have smartphones. Everyone does. And that being said, when they parlay that to us, basically just on, can you please send us photos? Well, as Rich and I have gone over, some initial photos are one thing, but when you get into the total loss, no.
And why?
We're charging.
Right. Why? Because it's not incumbent upon the first party or the third party to provide evidence and supports of an ACV. The initial damage estimates, yes, it's part of the policy or part of legislation to reasonably provide evidence of your damages that you're claiming. But with an ACV, it's purely the insurance company's accountability and responsibility to put together that. And damn right we should charge him.
Absolutely.
And it just is, it's getting to the point where they did a really good job of selling the fact that the shop should do this work. But now they think, well, the shops haven't been thinking about that cost structure. Well, yeah, we have. So now we've got to turn the tables on them. That's where the total loss worksheet came from. I have another one I'm working on that's much more difficult, but that's looking at an administrative charge worksheet, But that one's tougher because of what you're saying. There are certain things that there are requirements that the customer's got to do under the auspices of their insurance policy and what the state says they're required to do. So that one's tougher. But we'll keep working on it as much as we can. Tell me some other things, because I know you guys you're doing all kinds of stuff up there about really making sure you're getting paid right. What are some of the other things that y'all are working on?
Documentation. I mean, that's a quick thing to throw out there. That's crucial, getting the OEM repair procedures, providing that as necessary, which is also a struggle too, because we're the repair professionals, they're the insurance professionals, and knowing that it's a challenge, because when we present the information and they say no, then that's a whole nother ballgame. But yeah, documenting repair procedures, inventory, that's the next step that I'm really focusing on, is inventory management. And last year, Drew presented some on his inventory management, which was great to see. I've been interviewing several inventory management systems that will take it from being less manual for both sides, for both the tech and the office side, but more to an automated system, which will for sure help, and provide that clarity. But yeah, those are the two top things I would say that we're really working on, progressing with, and trying to provide more clarity as to everything we need to get paid for.
For me, you're one of the very early movers and shakers in ADAS and recalibration. You've now got what, a year and a half under your belt?
We're just over 2 with that.
Just over 2 years.
Yeah.
I've been that long.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing a little bit earlier? We had a member that's just started to move in that direction. They just bought a washing machine. Mm-hmm. And I know some of your successes. If you wouldn't mind, would you let everybody know,
sure,
in short order, high level, where you came from and how successful it's been?
This area is really, it is a passion for mine. Being a tech background and so forth, it still gives me ability to be a part of the process as much as I've now trained to remove myself, which is a blessing too, because you can get in situations where it's so time consuming that, you really, you need somebody to do that for you. But nonetheless, just over 2 years ago, seeing the trend for ADAS, and obviously ADAS has been around for a long time, we were subletting it out. And that being said, the sublet I was using, he really knew that I was interested in it. He said, you've got an eye for this. And nonetheless, I did more further research, did some ICAR training, and really dove into it. And that being said, I looked at what system was going to be best for us, for me, for the facility, on the premise of a few factors: convenience, of course. Secondly, support. And then, yes, I did my research on the financials for it. And I came out, I chose Autel. I didn't choose that equipment. They're FCA backed and so forth. But just diving into it, we actually I went in a joint venture originally with my brother. We still are on that venture. I just utilize the ADAS situation to my facility probably about 98% more than he does. But nonetheless, we actually went to a mechanical shop in Pennsylvania, which was about 2 hours from us. One of his colleagues in his 20-year group who purchased the equipment. We demoed his. We fell in love with it, but we actually had a Bosch unit at the shop. That Bosch unit was a brand new unit. Long and short of that was, it took about 2.5 days to get it from being brand new from startup, updated and ready to go. And we're like, this is insane. We used the unit for about a month. We just weren't pleased with it. We did the demo with the Autel and loved it. Not even a month later, we purchased an Autel. I did utilize that in, like we were talking, New Jersey. New Jersey's very challenging. Space is very limited. So my brother's got a good sized shop. We're using it over there, but mechanical, I was ending up on some mornings getting to my shop at 5 a.m., getting over to his shop at 6 a.m. after I was done with my setup, doing calibrations, and then going back on my day. Not fun. So speed up a little bit. I ended up renting a space last year. Just not even It's a 6-minute walk. I've timed it. It's my now exercise for
How many steps?
I'm going to count that next. Now this is a challenge. It's a 6-minute walk from where I am now. Just an open space. It's perfect for now. I want more. I want bigger, the whole 9 yards. I follow some of the other large shops that are building these massive facilities for ADAS. And it's really intriguing. It's just space is very limited in New Jersey. On the technical end of ADAS, it's not perfect in the sense of you buy a system, you think it's going to be everything included, all the targets and so forth. No, there's a growing stage with that. Besides us growing with my journey on ADAS, it's a growing stage. There's targets that are ever developing. As I'm sitting here, my slider plate arrived, or my it's a triple target Subaru for the mono wide angle camera and a dual eyesight. The dual eyesight we've had, but the 2023 Subaru requires this additional target. I purchased a target. It was available in Q1 of 2024. I was fortunate enough with my contacts and so forth to get the targets. But with the evolution of it, yes, there's continuous investment in it. It's not you just buy the machine and you're set to go. They're coming out with targets, not regularly, but enough that it was every time I have to buy a target, it's a little frustrating.
Let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
Inject a little quick question on that, Jeff. You're buying targets that other facilities around you may not have because it's so infrequent on doing things.
Yes.
Is there a site to where you all take a look and kind of co-op? Maybe somebody's got a series of sites that others don't, and then kind of just lease them out?
So I've thought about that. I want to say a little bit of hesitancy, but
Okay.
I did speak with a shop that has been doing it longer than I have, and they're about like 25 minutes from me. But I made contact with him, and I was able to obtain the targets prior to him, which was pretty interesting. We have similar connections, but he had not experienced a Subaru, and I unfortunately I was going through that. But we did bounce it off each other, say, hey, if I get them, we could make something work. Maybe rent them, you know.
Exactly.
And then of course, put it on the ticket.
Yeah.
I've had to honestly, and I should not say that. I've had to send 2 vehicles to the dealer in 2 years.
Okay.
One was a Subaru, which I can touch briefly on, and the second was Mercedes, both because of the new challenges. The Subaru was because I didn't have the 3 targets, and I was under a condition, which I need to. I went to Subaru. I drilled the advisors and the technicians as to what equipment are you using. I need the documentation. It has to have a completed, successful everything. They were extremely hesitant. Mercedes, actually, they were okay. They really provided me, the necessary information. But when it came down, I said to Subaru, I said, what equipment are you using? How are you measuring it? And so forth. And the response was, we, and I was expecting them to say, we just did the calibration and we know what that means. What they're doing is what they're doing.
Right.
But they did express to me, which was more than humorous, that they place a piece of plywood, put their targets up, and then they told me, yes, we're extremely accurate in our measuring. And I laughed at them. I had to.
Yeah. Why even entertain in a offsetting conversation on that point?
It was so challenging.
Well, we had a discussion with Repairify yesterday.
Yep.
And one of the interesting things is your MaxiSys system. They now have an interface where you can hit a button on that and you can get into their OEM devices through Aztec. So it's you're going through your device though.
Yep.
So you're saving a good bit of the cost, but you can go into it. And so he's going to send us some more information. I'm going to make sure everybody gets that because, boy, that was a great conversation.
I bet.
Great conversation.
Very successful. Obviously, you've got a new place to do that. Challenges. You brought up a couple about availability of sites. And we talked a little bit earlier today with another member that's just venturing into it. And they ran across a situation where they had to have specific tools to do some type of real calibrations, and they didn't have them, so they had to sublet that stuff out. You come across the same situation?
We have.
Okay.
We have. you do have, and it's part of that growing stage too. Like when you come across something, you need to move quickly to make sure that you can do that. But the other side of it is if you do the proper research on it, just like the repair plan. I mean, we incorporated our repair plans from, yes, it's not just, parts, labor, OEM repair procedures, but you need to dive into and meeting with your all departments. Paint is one that gets left out a lot, structural, body, and so forth. But it's we threw in ADAS in our repair plan process. And that being said, is not just looking up, okay, it needs a windshield calibration, radar calibration, but what does it need and the tools that are needed for that?
To get that recalibration done.
You can get some of that information by, at least with the Autel, you can get it in the filter of the ADAS filter. But long and short is sometimes you get into there and they're like, you need a specific tool.
Yeah.
And it can be an moment, it can be a little bit challenging there, but doing your upfront research and preparing for that helps. We've gotten stuck a couple times where it's delayed it.
Part of that repair plan, you utilize ADAS Think?
Yes.
Okay. Tell our viewers a little bit about that.
So with ADAS Think, we started that, I think that was a solid year and a half ago. It was post purchase of my equipment, but great utilization of being able to put your estimate through it as a filter. It's a PDF you send right to it, and they will for sure filter your estimate, go line for line with the estimate, and pull the necessary information for what the OEM repair procedures are. And it's not always just ADAS. It can be ADAS, it can be steering, it can be, and then down to your safety concerns. So you think of, Subaru, GM, and the requirements for them are extreme. You can be pulling a steering column. GM, you have the severity of what level of severity to then go ahead and do your procedures. But ADAS Think itself, it's a great tool. It also has now educated my estimators, knowing specific vehicles. We obviously inspect at repair plan stage of the systems that are on the car, whether it's radar and camera, which almost all vehicles have now. But then we're actually using it less now, believe it or not.
Because they've learned.
They've learned.
Educational plan.
And it also helps them educate themselves, the estimators, or damage analysis repair plan specialists, as we put it.
Yeah.
But I like to see that they're going into all data and looking up the material.
Yeah.
And you do have to be careful, but
right. And you put that charge
yes
on your repair plan.
OEM data acquisition.
And it's right in the P pages.
Yes. Yep.
All right. So, well, this has been a great conversation. And what we try to do at the end of our conversations are, let's look at what nuggets of information we can glean from them and immediately use it. And I'll start with Richard. Tell me what you thought.
Well, there's no epiphany for me working with Jeff, because I work with Jeff on a weekly basis, other than the fact that he does take a little bit of time, methodically walks through, which is a great analysis process. We had a member a little bit earlier, it was just a risk taker, just going to go ahead and do it.
Yep.
With Chris, Jeff works himself through it. Really, just he is who he is, and that's my takeaway with Jeff, and he's very proactive and progressive with the collision industry.
All right, Jeff, your thoughts.
I like what Richard said. Yeah, I am definitely for sure more reserved. I take my time. I always want it faster, 100%. With the size that I am, I'm of course one of the ones that wear many hats. We all are, but things do tend to take longer. But yeah, I do my analysis and so forth. So I mean, you also talk about takeaways for what we've gotten out here. I'm trying to look at myself in my position where I am now and where we're going to take the company. And that planning thing that I was expressing is really, really planning and getting the team to know the plan is really one of my major takeaways. And what I can't wait to go back, get feedback from them. And I expressed them a few things that I had prior to going super conference, what I was going to bring to the table. I didn't pull the trigger yet. I'm going to when I get back, but I also don't want to go back like when you go to a class and bring 1,000 things to the table.
Yeah.
And they're just going to think you're nuts.
Sure.
But, going back, methodical, I'm going to lay my plan out. to every degree that I can and pull from them too, and really push that. And this year, it's really.
I'll tell you, my observations are pretty simple. I've watched Jeff's progression over the last 3-4 years. You know, we've had conversations. I've listened to what he said in meetings. And what I like is everything that he's targeted to do, he's done. And it's made it, at least from where I'm sitting, it really tells me that the goals that he sets, he meets that opportunity and continues forward with it. And that's what we need out of, and I'm going to say it, younger folks that are getting into these businesses right now.
Not that young.
Well, younger than me, but you know, we had somebody we talked to last night that was a CEO, 25 years old. And one thing I'll say is that I think the future is quite bright. And I think that the independent repairer is going to be more in demand than less in demand, because they're taking the opportunity to learn all these things that need to get done. And whether it's for self-preservation or just making sure that we're getting a good, safe repair for the customer, which I think it's kind of both. I think we're doing a good job, and I'm glad to see guys like Jeff continue working in that, and I thank you for that. So with that being said, we'd like to thank you. We're closing out the week right now with all of the podcasts we've done. I think we're up to 38.
Good Lord.
So far this week. So it's been a lot of information that we've taken in. I encourage everybody to go in and listen to these podcasts, because there is endless amounts of information that's good, usable information for everybody's shop. So since Kim isn't here, I'll use her closing. And that's and I'll just throw in, be safe, make good choices, and hope to see you all soon on future broadcasts.
Thank you.
Thank you.